Hey everybody, it's Danielle Moon. I'm with Women in Power, and today I have the amazing Sailaja with us, and she is going to be telling us a little bit about herself. For those of you who are new this week, this is a kind of weekly, I think is where we're getting, is almost like a weekly interview where we get to highlight somebody within the community. So, with that, thank you, Sailaja, for joining me today. Would you mind giving the community a little bit more about you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Daniel, for having me. And it's excited for this chat. So, hi everyone. I'm Sailaja Mantripragada. I am a Power Platform specialist with around 20 years of experience in the IT industry. And I live in Dallas. You can tell, from India. And so I've been here for 18 years. And I have been in the specifically working with Microsoft technologies for the last 18 years. I'll talk about more as we go.
Yeah, amazing. Perfect. So, one of the things that I always like to ask everybody is to give us kind of an understanding of the origin story. So, would you kind of tell us what got you started? I mean, that's a pretty good amount of time that you spent in the Microsoft space. What drew you into that?
So I did my master's in computer applications, and
Okay.
with my first job, I was a pro code. I started as a .NET developer, worked for 3 years as a .NET developer, and discovered SharePoint once I moved to US.
Ah, okay.
And I've been a SharePoint SME starting March 2007 until SharePoint Online. Even now, I am a SharePoint specialist. So, so what brought me into instead of saying brought me into Power Platform, um, what brought me into business process reengineering
Hmm.
is SharePoint. So, my first three customers in when I started working with three clients consecutively, I was this um, ambitious developer who was ready to actually do ASP.NET coding and try to create custom web parts, custom stuff. And my first customer, Blue Cross Blue Shield, says, no coding, please. I want you to provide me out of the box, whatever you can.
Right.
Mm, at that point, I didn't question them. So I was like, all right, sure. And then after I moved to AARP and Freddie Mac, actually SEC. I worked in DC for Securities and Exchange Commission.
Oh, wow.
So everybody told me, let's not code, no custom coding. We have InfoPath, we have everything that SharePoint provides. I need this from you. And that's when I realized that they do not want to maintain another developer to take care of everything.
Yeah.
So, my fourth project, I started even before Microsoft coined the word low code, my resume said low code specialist.
Nice. Okay.
This
You're
was
ahead of your
into
times.
this was in 2010. So yeah, it's a fun story. So that's how I started. I've done built a lot of intranets and then business process automation using InfoPath and all that, jQuery, everything. Last 7 years, I've been working on Power Platform.
Amazing. So, and the reason I love asking the origin story is because we get just the widest variety. And so, for those who come from like the pro code space, I always think it's an amazing journey because you're like, wait, I can do this stuff on my own. I don't need it to be an out of the box. I don't need it to be easy. I can custom.
Right.
So I always think you guys bring a very unique perspective, coming from that background. So, if you will, maybe tell us what drew you to the Women in Power community.
Well, I met Geeta. I've known Geeta since 3 years. We're talking about Geeta Sivasalam, the
Yes.
MVP. So I think I stumbled upon her post on LinkedIn, or she reposted what you posted, and I found this Google form with Women in Power, and I was really drawn to it because even before I saw that, I've always had this interest and passion to help women who took a career break. bring them back to work. You know, I
Yes.
I felt what they need most is, you lose a lot of confidence once you take a break.
Hmm.
And I always had a passion for that. Not on an official level, but I train my friends, mentor them, and bring them back to work. And so I do that in general. That's my area of interest. So when I saw this, and another thing is, I've never had a official mentor, a technical um, status quo mentor for myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've had amazing people guide me through the career, but I thought it'd be great to pay it forward.
That is amazing. And you're actually one of the mentors in our first program. So I want to say thank you for that as well, because that's it's a lot of time and attention that you're putting out or putting back into the community, which is what I'm hoping is what's going to set us apart is to your point, like paying it forward, saying like, hey, I just because I didn't have this doesn't mean I need to be like mad about it. Let me help pull another chair to the table. Let me invite another woman to join this conversation. So I dare
Right.
say thank you for that because that's huge. And I think it's going to be an amazing, impactful moment that we're going to continue to see within Women in Power. And you're at the forefront
Yes.
being part of our first program. So,
I'm glad. I'm glad.
yeah. One thing I would ask on the return to work, this is it's a fun topic, I think, because women who take time off, I feel like we've already gotten into this bad mindset of like it being a negative connotation of like, oh, she took off time, she's not going to have all this stuff. Um, I think one of the things I'd love to do in the future is put a panel together of women who have actually taken time off. Like I was a stay-at-home mom for 4 years.
Mhm.
And I look at it very recently, until recently, as a negative thing until I realized, you know what, it actually gave me a kind of a different perspective. So maybe that's something else we can engage in the future is more of that return to work idea.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I'll be really happy.
yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. So, what would you say in just like your grand scheme of not having a mentor, but having people around you that have done well for you? What would you say some of the best advice is that you've ever received?
So early on, I think 10 years back, I was the architect and developer. I mean, I was doing both like the SME, and this was at like there was a senior director who came in. He was fresh. Like we had to do a KT to him to for him to you know just come up to speed with what we were doing.
Hmm.
And he told me that you don't speak up for yourself as much as you've actually worked on it. He saw others taking more credit or whatever, and
Yeah.
he's like he invited me personally and said, I thought you did a splendid job, but you need to speak up and showcase what you did. So that's one thing I feel in today's day and world. Like you do a lot. Doing work is one thing, and making sure it's heard about is another thing.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And pretty much, other than that's the best advice I remember. But other than that, the Microsoft community is so giving. All the MVPs are so giving. I've taken a lot because I'm self-taught. Everybody who's been on Power Platform, most of us are like we learn every day. It's like a moving target, so
Oh
we
yeah.
learn every day. I'm like stapling, saving posts from LinkedIn so much. I'm like, when will I
You
get to
become a
it?
hoarder. Don't, I mean, I felt like a hoarder where I'm like, wait, okay, I need to save this for later. I need to save this for later. I'm like, oh my gosh,
When
the
will I get
speed.
to? Yeah, yeah. So there's that. So yeah, I wouldn't say direct. Yeah, some another. I worked for Microsoft for 1.5 years. Like I was a contractor with Microsoft,
Hmm.
and my she was the director, and she is still my mentor in a way. Like she allows me to keep in touch. She told me, take care of your health.
Yeah.
So that's another thing I would like to pass on to whoever I'm mentoring. Is like the discipline. I think discipline. goes a long way.
100%. I've been trying to actually practice what I preach on a lot of things, and so I recently took time off, and I did not check in like normally I would do. Oh, a daily check-in just to make sure nothing's on fire, that kind of stuff, and uh, it's just one of those things where you're like, no, that's not actually taking time off if it's still in your head and you're still doing things. So protecting your health, your mental health, I think is a huge component of being successful for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So. So I know that you are you actually work for yourself, right? And so would you maybe ta take us through the consulting lifestyle that you've been having? And you're also on a track to MVP and wanting to look more into that as well. Is there anything you can share on the front, of either of those fronts?
Yep, I have just started a blog called lowcodepower.com.
Nice.
Um, I would be, yeah, what I do, I train on Power Platform. I train citizen developers, super users, um, and individuals. That's really not officially done, like I said. Like
Yeah.
somebody reaches out and help them kind of thing. But mostly with my own company, I am consulting. I do governance, architecture, everything. My specialities, or I specialize in Power Apps and Power Automate.
Okay, perfect.
I do a little bit of Power BI, quite a bit of it, but not like I wouldn't call myself a specialist. Yeah, but I train. Yeah. So I'm working towards being an MVP, giving back more to the community, and being an independent consultant.
Amazing. Did you see recently also, we just had a blurb release that was on the fast track recognized solution architect. So I think that's also like, I mean, we should definitely be looking at more women in the community to be applying for MVP status and the fast track recognized solution architect. I think there's some new stuff on that program this year, but if you haven't read on that one, I would definitely suggest doing that one too.
I did stumble. I remember taking a look at it. I'll make sure.
Yeah, it'd be kind of funny. Maybe we can have a group of women who are kind of going after it and seeing how the nomination goes. So, um, one of the things I was going to also ask you is, I know you kind of described what your role is doing the consulting and everything, and you've been doing it for a while. Do you see that as being your next step, or do you think that there's different things you'd like to do within the Power Platform, the business application space?
So when I look at Power Platform from, like I said, I am less into data and more into applications.
Hmm.
I love working with the customer directly, and that's my favorite space, actually, evangelizing technology, help them understand what the tools are capable of.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of being in your cat team, Power Cat
Yeah.
team, on my own. Yeah,
Yeah.
I help customers with them because a lot of times um, customers or a user knows that Power Platform I heard can do something, but they don't know what they need
Yeah.
in detail. So I like that space. So as much as I can think of, I think I'll continue consulting.
Hmm.
Yeah. But when you're consulting, the thing is, you don't have a ladder. Nobody is
Yeah.
going to give you a promotion and call you with a new name and give you
But
a
you could give
raise.
yourself one, right? You're like,
Yeah,
congratulations. I
that's
won this
something I
award. I'm
learned on
employee
the
of the
way.
month.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, pat on your back and say, now you are a senior. Now you are
Yeah.
this. So yeah, so I do that. I love training people. So I might get into the MCT world maybe
Okay.
and do training more seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I'm looking at. And another thing that I'm really, it's really important to me is governance.
Yeah.
It was with
Always a hot
SharePoint.
topic.
Even with SharePoint, like I once I get into a company as an SME, I would first take care of their governance side, put everything together, and then go from there. So that's another thing I'll be going towards.
Amazing. Okay. Well, so one of the other favorite questions I have is, do you have a superpower? And if so, what is it?
I think my superpower is my ability to listen to the customer, and
Yep.
I iterate really patiently. So I come with an entrepreneurial mindset. So
Hmm.
I understand that, and I do not work for a services company. Then you have rules, right? You cannot break the scope. There's a
Yep.
certain way you do it. For me, I'm like, I once I feel as an entrepreneur, like anybody who's a customer is asking you to do something because they have a bigger purpose in mind.
Hmm.
So when they ask the developer to put something together, most of the time they're like, I forgot something. And I'm like, this is not what I was thinking. I embrace that and I help them iterate with a smile. That's my superpower.
Oh, I love that. Create with a smile. That's amazing. So I love the idea that you're blazing your own trail. You're like, I didn't want to really go and conform into this idea. And so, what you've built is something that you can be very proud of. And I think it's also amazing that other women recognize that, hey, this is something that you're in the driver's seat, right? You get to decide on the projects that you're doing. There is an entrepreneurial spirit to it. But I love the fact that, all of those pieces are coming together for you, and that's really shown, a successful path that you've blazed through for yourself. So
Yeah,
well done
and I
on
think,
that.
thank you so much. And I think the low code technologies empower me to do that, because if you're building something using a pro code long term set path
Yeah.
coding, you cannot iterate so quickly and just say, okay, I'll put something together and come back. Um, Power Platform enables me to do that.
Yes. Yeah, it definitely that's one of the reasons why I love it so much as well is that I think there's also just so much creativity that can go into it, right?
Right.
You see it so many different ways, and I feel like every single day I can learn something new and exciting of like, wait, I've never tried that way, or oh, that's a different lens that you're looking at it. So
There's
I
never
think
a
that's
boring day since Power
yeah, it's
Platform
never
took
boring.
off. I've been to all the three conferences.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Well, and you were at we actually got to meet in person at the last one in Vegas.
right.
So
That was good.
yeah, so that's always fun too, just be able to actually see people in person instead of just a
Mhm.
virtual experience. So, well, thank you so much for taking the time today. I hope that this kind of helps the community know a little bit more about you, and grow your network and your connections. So please, everyone, take the time, follow, connect, and just again, thank you for your time today and discussing your journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Daniel, for this.
Of course. All right, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.